So I want to talk about the RTD category. And the RTD category is something that's seen astronomical development over the last 5 years. It added 32 million cases between 2018 and 2022 alone.
Mm.
So I'm curious, as someone who's been in this segment for so long now, can you speak to kind of the landscape of RTDs as a category when you first founded the brand and how you've seen it develop over time?
Well, when I first developed when I first developed my brand, um, it was just so weird looking that people would just stare at it and go, what is this?" And it went from nothing. I mean, basically there was Hugh Blind had some ready to drinks back in the 80s or 70s or 60s or something. I don't know, way, way, way long time ago. And then when I came out with my brand, I remember sitting in a distributor's office and this sales rep came in. He goes, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "That's a buzzball." And he said, "Oh, that's cool." He goes, "I'll give it 3 years." It kind of went from being nothing to people like in the 2019, 2015, that time frame, people were just starting to become more aware of RTDs. But in like even as late as 2019, people were still skeptical. You know, Distributors were skeptical. They wouldn't always take our call, to distribute our product. But now they're firm believers, and they're all in the bandwagon because they see that it's making money, it's growing. So, oh, how times have changed.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Something that's even more interesting is that like a decent amount of RTD brands that were founded or were popular around the same time as when BuzzBallz was founded no longer exist. So, what do you think it is that makes BuzzBallz different and has kind of been able to stand the test of time?
Well, I think everything that I remember was wine coolers. It was pretty much, Seagram's or, you know, the wine coolers. There was the Mike's Hard, lemonade, and Smirnoff Ice, those kinds of things. I think that what has really changed is consumers' awareness of, if it says Smirnoff on it, does that mean vodka's in it? Bacardi Breezers, does that mean Bacardi's really in it? Or, what's a malt beverage? I mean, even when I started, I didn't know what a malt beverage was. I was like, is that beer? I mean, why does it taste like lemonade? So I had to learn that whole landscape of malt beverages versus wine beverages versus spirit cocktails. I think what's different about us is, just our packaging. I mean, that's one huge difference of just how we look.
Yeah, we actually, the last episode we did on the Park Street Insider podcast, we had uh, a member from Euromonitor come on and speak to us about RTD trends in the current market and kind of how they've developed over time. And something we arrived at was that RTDs are often like the fashion industry, they can be cyclical, and beverage alcohol trends at large, right? They kind of come and go. So I'm curious, were there any challenging periods that your brand or RTDs had to endure that at times when potentially they weren't as popular, unlike today where we've seen so much growth?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time about 8, 9 years ago when we were pitching to our Arizona distributor, and they brought us in, had the contract, took weeks and weeks and weeks to develop this contract. We finally got the contract with them, got the purchase order, had the truck ready to load, and the boss called me up and said, "We're canceling our purchase order, stop the press." I'm like, "Wait, we have a contract, we have your purchase order, we've fulfilled your order." And he says, "No, it's a fad. I think your stuff is crap. It's a fad." And I'm like, "Oh my God, okay." So yeah, that was pretty challenging. And now they keep coming back going, "Will you let us distribute you?" And I'm like, "Hell no." Never. I'm not gonna forgive you ever. No. Um, but I mean, we've had some really challenging times too, like when we were kicking off in California, which California is our best state now in terms of sales. But when we first started, I remember my sons and I went out there to kick it off, sat in a room of 100 sales reps, and they basically did nothing with our brand. They sold nothing. They sold 38 cases in 6 months, 38 cases. And so then I finally hired a sales rep person, and she was awesome. She was actually like going to be our receptionist for a while. And I said, "Oh, I think you look like Miss Arkansas, so I think you should be our sales rep." And so she came out and she went out and wooed them and sold like 300 cases in her first week. And I was like, "Okay, that's pretty good, you know." And so we kept going there, and then we developed a plan and developed this over time until we helped build the brand. And that's where I learned that you can't rely on your distributor to build the brand for you. You have to do it yourself. No matter what the distributor's roles and responsibilities are, you still have to do it yourself. You have to make all the sales calls to all the chains. You have to go out there and beat the streets. You have to merchandise. You have to keep tabs on everything, inventory, point of sale, everything.